Hello and welcome to Whiskey and Wool. My name is Shannon and I'm coming to you from northern New Jersey in the U.S. This is a channel about knitting and spinning primarily. Sometimes I sew. I haven't sewn in I made a mask. I made a face mask. Only because I was desperate. I just didn't want to spend my crafty time working on masks. But anyway, I digress. So I'm going to talk to you today about knitting and spinning. I think this is going to be a pretty concise episode, I have a feeling. Oh, I wanted to welcome new viewers. I got a whole bunch of new subscribers, which I'm so grateful for. Thank you so much for choosing me out of all of the, few hundred of us that are out there putting knitting and spinning content together. I really, really, really appreciate you, and I'm happy that you found me, and I hope you enjoy continuing to watch this show. I am going to begin with, first I'm going to tell you what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Stonecrop Cardiby Andrea Mowry. I have it completely finished. I think last week I hadn't sewn on the ribbon detail. I really like that. This is the first time I've ever sewn on a ribbon detail on the inside to like cover up the... This was if you're not familiar, this is a pattern that you steek, so you cut it after you've knit it. You knit in the round and then cut it. And it's not that there's a lot of raw edges, but I just thought it would make it neaten it up a little bit, and I really, really love it. I just sewed it on by hand. It was really pretty easy. But yeah, it's a really chilly day here today. There was snow just a little bit north of us, and I don't even think it's 40. It's very, very windy outside. It's chilly. But it's beautiful. It's green. Everything's green. And though it's a little overcast now, we've had intermittent sun. I guess the clouds are blowing around. But yeah, the flowers are in bloom. It's really, really pretty. And I'm having the allergies happening. I'm a little drippy, so I may do a little dabbing from time to time. Anyway, I want to jump into the whiskey chat. I filmed the whiskey chat last night just before watching Outlander. I love to drink whiskey while I'm watching Outlander. They just go together. That Scottish brogue with the sips of whiskey and warming your whole insides was perfect. So anyway, I'm going to send you to look at that. If you want to jump ahead, I'll put the skip to right here. And hey there, I'm going to do a little whiskey chat with you. It is Friday night. And yeah, I'm sharing with you another whiskey from my Advent calendar. This is Glenglassaugh. I think that A-U-G-H is pronounced off. This is their revival whiskey, and wow, do I have a story for you. There's a pretty complex story to this whiskey. The distillery, forgive me while I just read from the website for a minute. The distillery was founded in 1875 by a local entrepreneur named James Moore. This is in Speyside region. This distillery, it is on the coastline. So a lot of what we see in the Speyside region is that the distilleries are on the like a little away from the coast, like following rivers often and stuff like that, because water is necessary for making whiskey. This particular one, Glenglassaugh, is by the coastline. So on the not northernmost coast, but on that northern curve of the Speyside region. Okay, established by James Moore in 1875. And then in 1892, which wasn't that long, it wasn't even 20 years, the distillery was bought by Highland, so Highland Distillery Company. And then in 1907, it was put to bed. They call it mothballed. So it was mothballed. In other words, they decided not to produce whiskey anymore, not to make any whiskey. Now, this brings to question, what happens to all those casks that were still aging? I mean, if they filled their last cask in 1907, what happened? It needs at least, like, what did we figure out, 4 years to be considered whiskey? Did the old employees just roll them home? But let's continue, because I'm drinking some of this today and it is not from 1907. So in 1922, so that would have been 15 years later, they reopened the doors of Glenglassaugh, and yeah, things continued for a nice buzzy while. And then in 1959, they decided to build a new distillery on premise, on site. And the new distillery is pretty cool. I'm going to put a picture here. It's very modern, very much mid-century modern. And then they reopened again in 1959. So they just closed, as far as I can tell, for that very brief period, like maybe a year or two, for them to reopen the new distillery. They don't say why. Like, was there an inflush of cash? Was there a fire? We don't really know. It does not say on their website. So, but anyway, in 1960, they were back and raring to go. They brought in some new sills, and they were just, producing until 1986. In 1986, Highland Distillery Company, who still owned them at that time, decided to close. So I don't really know what was happening in the whiskey industry in the 1980s, because I was still a pretty young lass. I wasn't really drinking whiskey. If I was, it was crap whiskey. It wasn't high-end single malts like this one. So anyway, they filled their last cask in 1986 of December of 1986, and the distillery stayed shuttered until 2008. Again, that's a long time. Like, what happened to those casks? So where did the casks go? Did someone take them, or did they just stay in a warehouse? Like, we don't know. It's always a question for me whenever whenever I'm telling you the story about distilleries, because I guess it's not that uncommon. We've seen so many that shut for a brief period of time. In this case, this was a very long time. This was 22 years that it stayed shut. So anyway, 2008, it was purchased by, or it was reopened, and they started to make whiskey in really small quantities. But then in 2013, so they weren't really fluid in terms of their cash flow. But in 2013, another big company bought them. They acquired them. So it was Ben Riach is the name of the distillery company that bought them. And that is the distillery that we have today. What we know and love, or what we are getting to know right now, actually, this Revival whiskey. So what can I tell you about the Revival whiskey? So the Revival whiskey was the first whiskey born from the Reborn Distillery, or first whiskey that came out of the Reborn Distillery. It was launched in 2012, and then later that year, Glenglassaugh Evolution, which was matured in ex-Tennessee bourbon casks, yum, followed the popular release of Revival. So Revival is aged in ex-red wine casks and also ex-bourbon casks, so you get that sort of red, fruity flavors along with the bourbon sweetness. So this is a very drinkable whiskey. Very, very drinkable whiskey. Lots of familiar flavors in it. In 2016, which is just 4 years ago, the distillery was resold to Brown-Forman. Brown-Forman have continued with the strong legacy that was established within Glenglassaugh Distillery, and has broadened the range a little bit. So yeah, there you go.
let's talk about the flavor. There we go. So it is a lovely copper color. I think you can see there. Oh, wow. So on the nose, you do really smell that, like flavors that you would expect with a red wine. So there's like a red grapey smell. But that red grapey smell is mingling with something that's slightly spicy. It's not as spicy as some of the other ones that I've tasted. It's almost like a fruitcake sort of consistency or smell. There's a little bit of nuts. So by fruitcake, I mean like a little bit of nuts, a little bit of like stewed or macerated fruits. Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So the overwhelming flavor that you taste is vanilla. So once you swallow it, you taste vanilla. Up front, there was that berry nutty taste, similar to what I was smelling. That's a fruitcake in a glass. It's really good. All right, let's see what the experts have to say about it. I did find what, let me see if I can click over to it. I did find what the distillery says about itself, about its own wine, about its own, oh my God, the picture. I have to show you this picture. Oh, these pictures are beautiful. Okay, those you'll be seeing. You probably already saw. The Revival, the Glenglassaugh says this about their own product. They say sweet caramel and toffee notes with nutty sherry. So there's that nut, milk chocolate, and honey. I don't taste overwhelming honey. Ripe plums, red berries, and oranges. So yeah, I was getting a lot of that, though I was associating it more with grapes. So it might have been because I knew about the red wine. Finish is warming mulled wine spices, sherry, and caramel. All right, I have also my favorite site, Flavier. They have said, so they let me know that the bottle is, you can buy it for $58.99. They say it leads with an overwhelming burnt caramel taste, and that it has smoky vanilla and marzipan. Marzipan. So that was probably when I was saying fruitcake, that's what I was tasting. Also apple, milk chocolate, sherry, nuts, and burnt sugar. It also makes flavor out of plum and berry notes from wine casks and rich nuts, toffee, and chocolate notes from sherry casks. Any way you slice it, Glenglassaugh Revival is really a solid Highland Scotch malt. Reborn. Anyway, I hope you get a chance to try this whiskey. It is super delicious, and I'm going shopping tomorrow, so hopefully I'm actually on the hunt for a whiskey to share with you, because my little advent calendar bottles are dwindling, so so hopefully I'll have something interesting. They're always interesting, actually, so hopefully I'll have something really cool and new to share with you next time. Cheers!
Okay, welcome back. So I don't have any finished objects this week. I didn't think I was being that productive with my knitting and spinning, but I actually think there was a big spinning project going on that I didn't know was as big as it was, which I'll show you later. I want to first talk to you about knitting, because I think it's going to be pretty fast. So Martha is wearing the Throwover by Andrea Mowry. This is like kind of a heavy Andrea Mowry episode. Not intentionally. This is actually only the second pattern that I've knit of hers. This is the third, and I have a fourth I'm going to show you in a bit. But anyway, this is the Throwover by Andrea Mowry, and I am knitting it out of this beautiful Polworth and silk blend. The pattern is written for worsted, but I am using a DK weight. I did my gauge conversion that I talk about in a video that I will put in here. I have a playlist that just has 2 episodes in it right now that's called Level Up Your Knitting. And the one, it's about how to make your yarn work for a pattern instead of trying to find a pattern that works for your yarn. You match your yarn. You can match your yarn to any pattern, essentially, is the gist of it. So, so I am knitting a size 6, even though I probably should be knitting a 4 or so. So I went up a couple sizes to make my gauge match. And again, details in that video. It's a pretty brief video, about 10 or 15 minutes if you want to take a look at that. But I absolutely love this yarn. Again, it's Kim Dyes Yarn. She's a Virginia-based dyer. I believe it's Virginia. I think so. Yeah, I think it's Virginia. Anyway, I have met her and talked with her and chatted with her at Vogue Knitting Live when I first bought this yarn. That was the first time I had met her. This was Vogue Knitting Live 2019. I bought a sweaters quantity, 4 skeins, which actually I think I might be, I just started, you can see the end here where I joined them together. I really just started knitting with the 3rd skein, and I don't think I'm going to use it all to make the 2 sleeves. So 3 skeins was probably enough. I'm, again, digressing. Not staying on track. Okay, here we go. It is called Robin's Egg. The colorway is Robin's Egg. The yarn is Shortbread. I think all of her yarns have bakery. The bases are all bakery bases. So again, 85% Polworth and 15% silk. It's a really, really nice drape. It's beautiful. I really can't wait to block it and see what it looks like. The most delightful thing about this color, it's a pretty, I don't often, I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to also have disclaimers, I guess. I don't feel like I often buy solid yarns. I have to be really conscious of buying solid yarns because I naturally gravitate towards the wild and crazy, colorful yarns. Yarns that have lots going on in them, which you'll see what I mean when I show you my hand spun. So I tend to gravitate towards those, though I realize that if you want to do color work, a speckle base is probably not the best bet. So anyway, I just picked up this color because I love it so much, and you're going to see a bit of a theme too. I'm not usually so thematic. Andrea Mowry and a lot of turquoisey, green, blue, and that spectrum stuff today. But I'm not usually that thematic. Anyway, as I was saying, the most delightful thing about this yarn, which I hope you will be able to see, is that there are little green specks. You see it just in about the middle of the screen, above the center hole. It's right there. They're right there. I don't think it's close enough, but there's like these random little green stitches, like lime green. There's one right there that just occur every once in a while, which was so delightful. It was just like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. So I used the Spincycle Dream State, which was called for in the pattern. I used 3 different colors. I used Shades of Earth, which is this rust to navy color that you're seeing there. I just realized you really don't see all of Martha. Maybe my camera moved since I did this setup. I think she's just back as far as she can go. But actually here, let's do this. There you go. Now you can see all of her. So this rusty navy is Shades of Earth. The center mossy green color is Deep Bump, and then the pink to peach color, which is actually yellow, it looks like peach knit in, but it's pink to yellow and it's got some gray in it, is Verba Volent. And you really don't need much of those. So I had a partial skein, like almost full skein of Deep Bump. I still have some left. I think all of them I used about 60 yards in the size that I did, size 6. I don't even know what the pattern calls for. So one of the things that I like to do, if you're a longtime viewer, you'll know this, I like to print out the pattern so I can write notes and keep track of different things that I've done, like right on the pattern. And then I put it away in a, I just have a drawer full of patterns. I really should organize them. I have a notebook that I was using and then I just stopped and everything just went in a drawer. So eventually someday I'll get back to organizing those patterns. So I just keep them that way, and I have notes. I also write notes after I'm done. I'll write notes of the mods that I did in my Ravelry project page, so I'm pretty meticulous about that too. But sometimes, like if I'm, like for instance on this, when I started this sleeve, I ended up with 2 extra stitches because I just couldn't make the stitch count work across the, on the underarm part. So I just added 2 more, and then I just did an extra decrease. So I figure I'll do an extra decrease. So hopefully I wasn't able to write that down. So I hope I remember it. I hope I remember that I did that, because that's not a mod that I would necessarily notate on Ravelry. It's just something that happened in the moment. I just want to make sure I do the same on the other sleeve. So hopefully I will remember that I did that. This has been a really lovely knit. It knits fast because it's a thicker weight yarn, so you can feel like you're moving along really quickly. I think last week when I showed, or 2 weeks ago when I showed it to you, I was, maybe about 4 inches down, about right here. So I knit all of this. This has been my knit while you're in a meeting and don't have to participate knit. So I knit all that amount in 2 weeks, like from here to here, and the ribbing and stuff. And then I just started the sleeve this morning just to, because again, it's pretty mindless. I have it on I always start my sleeves right off of the armhole with a 16-inch needle, circular needle, and then when it starts getting snug, I switch over to the flips, the flippy flips, which I'll show you in a sec. I have a drawer right here. I'm actually not sure I have size 6 in flips. Oh, I don't. Oh wait, these might be 6s. It's difficult to read. Hang on. Oh, these are 5s. Anyway, my preference is to move to these double points where they're flexible. I just realized that the camera's higher now, so where I think I have to hold things up higher. I'm going to fix it when I'm done talking about it. But yeah, so these are my preference for double points. I don't like magic loop. I find it really awkward. I don't like having to stop and move the cord. It feels like it takes longer than just knitting around on double points. But yeah, it looks like I don't have flips. So I'll be using, these are also pretty good. I'll be using these double points. These are Prism double points, which have a really cool point to them, which I'm not going to be able to see unless I put my hand up. So you have like this, see that? So it's like a sculpted point. They're triangular. I may cut this whole thing out. Okay. Yeah, so I am buzzing along on this. Sleeves are plain, when they're plain like this, tend to go pretty fast for me, so I expect to be done pretty quickly with this sweater, and yeah, then it'll get blocked, and maybe I'll be wearing it next episode. That'll be exciting. I would really like that. I would like that a lot. Okay, the next project that I want to share with you is living in my Hohi & Co. Pampa bag in the blush pink. I really love this little tote bag. It's perfect for working at home projects, though I think it would be fun to carry and just like put your cell phone and wallet right in the bag too, and carry it out as well. But I am using it right now for the Vertices Unite shawl that I am knitting for my daughter-in-law who is expecting, and I am making her a shawl that she'll be able to use while she's nursing the baby out and about, or maybe even in her home if she's a little cool. And, you know, at night I remember being a little chilly and like wrapping myself up in a blanket with the baby while I nursed. So yeah, that was the plan, but of course she can use it any time. So yeah, I am on section 5 right now, not doing a very good job showing it to you, so let me start. If you're not familiar, this is a Stephen West pattern called Vertices Unite, and he's just genius. Like the way that man's brain works, holy crap. Like you work it in modules, so you do a section at a time. So the first section is this very long striped section that I'll talk to you about the yarn in a sec. And then you do this section here, that piece there, that long triangle. And then you make this rectangle. And then from there you, and what you do each time is you pick up stitches along another, like a finished selvage. And now I'm here working on this section. This section will connect all the way up to this point here. So it'll be like a trapezoid shape. And then from there you knit one last odd-shaped triangle, kind of like this one here, but smaller. And then an I-cord bind off all the way around. So there are some live stitches. I have live stitches here, and I have live stitches on this side here. But where you don't have live stitches, you just pick up stitches and knit them in. So yeah, so this is the shawl. I'm very happy with it. She asked for blue and green shades of blues, turquoises, and greens, I think was what she asked for. So, and that's right up my alley, clearly. So I had a bunch of single skeins and also scrap yarns that worked quite well. And actually I'm only using one scrap yarn, and that is what's in this wedge right here. And it is, I'm very close to being out. I'm not sure I'm going to get all the way through. This is Cat Sandwich Fibers on her glitzy base. You can see a little bit of glitter in there, called Garden Tea Party. I knit a Elton cardigan out of this last year and wore the crap out of that thing last summer because sitting inside in air conditioning, you usually want another layer over your sleeveless or short sleeve tops that you're wearing in the summertime. So, and I actually have plans to make another Elton cardigan. I've got the yarn caked and ready, waiting. I was planning to start it in February, but I never got around to it. And yeah, it's one of the things, one of my future knits. So yeah, that's what's going on in this section right here. It's striping the Cat Sandwich creamy color, which has little hints of mint and pink and purple in it. It's striping with this Deep Stash yarn that is a beautiful lilac color. And this is Deep Stash from a dyer that no longer dyes, and I think it's called Winter's Treasure. Yes, Winter's Treasure. So that is there, and this color, this Winter's Treasure color, is also striping in here, in this section. I'm showing you the right side. Yeah, that's the right side. So it's toning down this green and pink color. That is another Cat Sandwich Fibers color. You can see it better here. This is it alone. And it is a color that I got. It's unnamed color that I got in her advent calendar from 2019. So I had gotten, she did a 7-day 50-gram skein. I love those 50-gram skeins. Those 50-gram skeins I have used. With this one, I have used 6 of them. Yeah, I mean, just working them into other things. They're great little accent colors, and I was thinking to myself, like, I should get another 50-gram skein. And I only know of one other person who did a 50-gram skein. All the advent calendars are coming out right now. Are you bombarded with choices? Like, I was bombarded with choices. I really struggled with who to choose. I went with, this is like such an aside from this, but it's related because there's advent color in here. So far, I went with the same Fibre calendar, advent calendar person that I bought last year. So last year I'd bought advent calendar from Le Petit Potion, and I'm going to show you what I've done with it in my spinning. I've worked on it this past couple weeks. I bought another 25-day calendar from her, and then she did a shorter one too, a 12-day, so I bought that one too, because her 12-day is a gradient, which I thought, okay, amazing. That's amazing. I have to have it. And blues and greens. Blues, greens, and purples. So right up my alley. The other one I think is going to be a hodgepodge of colors from what it sounds like, but judging by what I got this year, or this past Christmas, I think I can be comfortable with the unknown part of, because I was very happy with what I got this year. Yeah, and then yarn-wise, I bought from Stitch Together Studio. She did advent calendars, and she did a Fibre advent calendar too. She just released it. It's actually up for sale. Oh no, it might have come down. I think it comes down today on May 10th. This is May 10th, but I don't think you're going to see this video till tomorrow, till the 11th or after. But yeah, so her calendars were coming down today. She might put them up again or different versions, but she did a Fibre calendar too, and I just had to stop myself from buying the Fibre calendar, and instead I went with a 12-day mini skein calendar instead, because I'm anticipating baby knits. And I think mini skeins are going to be great for baby knits. I also think these 50-gram skeins would be great for baby knits. I don't think I'm going to get any other advent calendars. There were so many that were so tempting, so tempting. I had only one criteria, which was that I wanted to buy from a US maker, because my Fibre calendars are coming from a French maker. And I just am not sure about the post and stuff, and I wanted to be a little more cognizant of supporting US maker since I live in the US, so like a more local to me. I will probably purchase a yarn calendar from Cat Sandwich if she does one. I realized last year she did a very late release of her advent calendars. She was much later than everybody else. And I've been watching her Instagram, and I also get her newsletter. So that's the best way. Like if you want to stalk someone, get their newsletter, because newsletters tend to be a little more forthcoming, a more reliable way of getting information, because Instagram's algorithm is just dumb. I can't stand it. I miss the old days of when it was in chronological order, because then I would never miss anything. I lost a stitch off of its yarn, off of its waste yarn. So let me just mess with that for a sec. Okay. Yeah, so back to this. The two yarns here are the Garden Tea Party that I showed you, that cream Garden Tea Party, and then the other skein. The other skein is a Voolenvine club color called the Knight's Court, which is based on a Court of Thorn and Roses, but it's so pretty. I think this will knit in the last section by itself, so there'll be a nice big stretch of the shawl that will just be this beautiful blue-green sort of mermaidy color. And I put it with this purple that I thought is really like an opposite of this one in a way. So it's like the purple and green flipped from here to here. So they just swapped places. So where this is predominantly turquoisey green, this is predominantly purple. So this is turquoisey green with blue and purple sections and spaces, and this is purple with blue and green. And actually there's also this like really pretty cranberry color in there too. I think, so this purpley color is from Knox Yarn Company, and it's called Reverie. I think I have enough of this to do the I-cord bind off, which excites me, because according to Stephen West's pattern instructions, that rectangle was supposed to be practically a whole skein. I think he had it as like almost 400 yards, and this particular skein was 463 yards, so I think I'm guessing I have about 100 yards here, or maybe a little more, so that should be plenty to get me through the I-cord bind off, which I think that's going to look really good. The pattern, if I followed the instructions, I would actually be using the cat sandwich fiber advent color as the bind off, but I'll definitely have enough of the purple, light purple gray, which was where I thought I was going to go, but I think this will look so much nicer. Like, I just think it'll really tie the piece together pretty well. Yeah. So that's my Vertices Unite. I hope you're able to see it. I feel like it just is such a floppy piece right now. It's hard to see, and I've made a mess of my knit bag again. I don't even know. There's like yarn everywhere. All right, I'll fix that later. I think I do that every week too. Okay, moving on. Oh, let me show you this. Okay, I made progress on the Nell for a change. So now that this is in sleeve mode, I like to have another knit on the needles where I'm going around and around in a very mindless way. So Nell should fill that void. This is Nell, what I have of her. I'll pop a picture on screen of what this sweater looks like. It's a very cute peasant blouse style, and it has the A-line shaping in the bodice, so you're gradually increasing as you go. And it has all kinds of really cute details. So like on the bodice, it's got a few rows here where you slip stitch. Each slip stitch is in a certain pattern, and it creates this like textured stitch. It's really pretty. It's a little bit lost on this very busy yarn, but I think that it's also adding a little bit of shaping in there. And then you do increases so it looks like gathers. So I think it'll be clearer for you to see when I bind the body off. So maybe by next time I'll have the body bound off. The neck also has a really cool textured, I'm going to hold it in a weird way so the camera focuses on it. It has a really cool textured stitch, like slip stitch pattern on the neck. And then there's a side seam detail too, where it's like it's very tiny but very long cable. So, and it's super easy to do. It's like every 6th or 7th row you're doing crossing stitches over themselves. So my plan with this, though, in terms of knitting, I am going to finish up this skein in the bodice, and when I get to the end of the skein, I'm going to stop knitting the bodice and knit the sleeves because I'm a little nervous. According to her pattern, I'm a little short yardage for the body. So I will knit both sleeves. I think the sleeves are kind of like to just above the wrist length anyway, and they're also pretty full sleeves. So this, again, it's peasant style. And there's a little bit of color work right here, which I'm going to do also in cat sandwich using the advent colors. So the pattern does not call for you to switch your background color, but because this is so busy, I thought it would be useful to switch to a more tonal background color. So this is going to be the background color of the floral, and then these will be the flowers. So I think those will look really great together. So I'm going to do that. That happens on the sleeve. So I'm going to knit both sleeves, and then when I'm done with the sleeves, I'll go back to doing the bodice. And that way, instead of following the directions of the pattern, going all the way down, knitting the bodice, and then being short on the sleeves, I'll be able to knit the bodice as long as I can. And if it's still too short for me, what I was thinking I could do is a row of the pattern repeat of the color work around the bottom. I might do that anyway because I kind of think that would look cool. It certainly goes with that peasant blouse feeling or theme of this pattern. Yeah. So, and I have more of these little. I have 2 more of these, so because these are those 50-gram skeins. So I actually have 2 full skeins, which is more than enough. This is plenty for the sleeves. It'll probably be enough to do a panel around the bottom too. So I thought that would be fun. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, and this is really wear now. Like, this is great for right now, and I really want to finish it. I just have been distracted with other things, just like other things. And I find that I'm really good at getting sweaters to the armhole. Well, it can be kind of sloggy when you're going through this section, not if there's color work, but when you're just knitting around and there's, I don't know, 400 or 500 stitches on the needle. It's just kind of sloggy to be knitting that many stitches. It just feels like it takes forever to make a row. So this pattern is a lot of stitches because it's very blousey, loose, and it's very beautiful. I love it. But I think it's going to be fun, a fun sweater to wear when it's done. So that is that. I have one impulsive cast on. I totally blame Caroline of Dunderknit of Knitting Vicariously podcast for this one, because I was watching her talk about her vicarious knits and what she was thinking about, patterns that caught her eye. And I love watching that, and usually I'm just like, oh, I love that sweater, and I cue it, and then I forget about it. So I did that. This is another Andrea Mowry pattern. So I did that. I cued it. And then I was thinking about it as she was talking on about other stuff. And I was like, oh, crap. I think I have yarn for this. So I got up, paused her, got up, and looked in my stash and found that, yes, I have yarn for this sweater. So that was it for me. I bought the pattern. I think Andrea was having a sale at that point. So I bought the pattern, caked the yarn, and cast on within about 12 hours or so of queuing the pattern. So this is Pink Velvet by Andrea Mowry. I am not using 100% of the yarn that she recommended. I am using the melted baby suri. She used Qing fiber, melted baby suri for the pattern, and then she used the singles, her merino singles for the body. I had other fingering weight yarn in-house that I used. So I am using a sheepy wool from the Little Grey Sheep called Stein Fine Wool. I bought it at Edinburgh Yarn Festival last spring, in March of 2019. And I am using melted baby suri that is left over. I had originally from my original Saucy Suri bomber jacket that I'd purchased the 6 skeins of the suri, and it turned out I only needed 4 for that pattern. So I had 2 and a little bit of extra, a little dab of extra yarn from that pattern. So I realized that these would make a really, really fun pairing, these two. So this Stein wool, back here it looks green, but when I put it close to the camera, it really looks black. It is actually called black squid ink, but it's a beautiful deep dark green, like very foresty green color. And when I bought it, I had no plans for it. And over the months that it's been sitting in my stash, I thought I might make a sweater for one of my sons because he loves black and green. So this is kind of both. But I realized that I want to make a cable sweater for him, a sweater with cable patterning on it. And I realized that the cables really won't show up in this dark color. So I had sort of come to the conclusion that I needed to use a pale color, like a gray or something like that he would also love. So that got tabled for that, and then this was just sitting with nothing. It didn't have a plan, so now it has a plan. It will be Pink Velvet. I just really love the way this suri, this hot pink, orange, it's a soft pink actually. This hot orange color and this minty green and pale pink are all playing together. I want to say the color name is Aurora. I don't know if I have. Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, Aurora by Qing Fibre. Qing. And the wool is this one right here, Little Gray Sheep. British Stein Fine Wool 4-ply. It's the fingering weight. In squidding pasta, not black squidding, squidding pasta. So yeah, this has been fun. I certainly don't need to wear this now. Like, this is more of a regular, like, autumn. I guess like today it would be perfect. But whatever. You know what? This is part of the joy of, like, I understand why people are impulsively casting one thing on after another. In fact, I was reading a post by one of the Spincycle ladies, and they were saying, like, they just are casting on everything, and they love color work. And then, I mean, they're both very small women, so they say that they get through the color work, and then it could just be cropped. Like, they just have to knit a little bit, and then they just crop it and just end it, just so they can keep, they can end that sweater and go back and knit another color work yoke. Because it's very gratifying, right? It's very instant gratification to be able to do a top-down color work yoke, because you get to see this. Like, this is one evening, basically, of knitting, maybe an hour or two, watching a show, and I had this to show. And then, so after I did that, I was like, okay, cool. I see what that looks like now, and I love it, but I really need to get going on some of these other things and finish other things. So, so yeah. Anyway, I was just cracking myself up. It is fun. This is not a very long color work yoke either. It's only about 35 rows. So I think I'm about on row 6 or 7. So I've got 6 or 7. Oh, I'm like 20% of the way done. Almost. Maybe a little less than that. Maybe like a 1/7 of the way done. But yeah, it's fun, and it makes me laugh when I think about how impulsive I was knitting this. So every time I pick it up, it just makes me smile. So that's worth it, right? That's totally worth it. I do want to get to some of my other knitting plans, though. I have a few things that I want to knit for this summer. So I do want to get to those and knit them soon. That is all my knitting. I didn't make any progress on the cat blanket. I decided to finish the shawl for his mommy first, and then I will make his blanket. I really wanted to finish everything before I saw them in person, and now it looks like that's going to be later than I wanted it to be. I was hoping to see them this month, but I don't think it'll happen just because of the regulations and things that are in my area. I mean, there's nothing to stop me from seeing them aside from, like, the law isn't stopping me. It's just my own. I don't want to make her sick when she's pregnant. I just don't want to make her sick. So that's fine. Okay, spinning. Moving on to spinning. See, I knew this would be a fast one today. Okay, I got 3 skeins spun. If you watched last week, I talked about, I had finished the 3 skeins of Handspun from Stitch Together Studios Club, her year-long club of, what does she call them? It's basically pagan holidays, but she uses a different name. Wheel of the Year Club, I think it's called. Anyway, I bought extra. So I would have a sweater or projects quantity. And I finished that spin, and it was really challenging because it was a mohair blend. It was a wool and mohair blend. And transitioning between the wool and mohair is very slick. And so as I was spinning, often I had breakage, and I had to anyway, I wanted just a very plain, simple spin. And I showed the braid, which I'll put on screen of this yarn. So I'll put this braid on so you can see it. This is this was the final braid that I got in my Fibre Advent from Le Petit Potions. It's a very soft pink with stretches that are like a mint green. So I think I explained last week that though when you look at the braid, you would think, oh, it's half pink, half green. It actually was more like 2/3 pink to 1/3 green. So, and that showed up in the actual spin too. There are moments where there's transitions happening, where you get like a softer shade of pink or a softer shade of mint. So it ends up being sort of like pretty much a pink, soft pink gradient, very, very soft. Like it transitions from deep pink to very pale pink, almost buff or cream. And yeah, it is a blend of merino and soy silk. And that was the little tag she sent along for this color. So yeah, I spun that. And then I went on to continue spinning the fiber. The fiber that, I'll show you the one that I'm going to spin next. The way the fiber came was I got small things like a rolag. This rolag has been broken, but a rolag or a mini bat. This is also been divided, so I'm getting ready to make the skeins of different colors. And then what I did was I grouped, there were 24 of those, plus a few extras that she threw in. I grouped the colors by, or the fiber. I decided to ignore content and just do a blend in terms of content because they were all wool. They all have wool of some sort in them. They're different wools. So that's been fun, like seeing how different wools feel and how they react. So they were, and they all have, some of them have silk in them, some of them don't. Some of them have bamboo, some of them have stellina or angelina. So there's like a whole, it's really a nice blended group. And then I ignored content and just looked at color. So I grouped everything by color. I talked about that on a former episode, which I will put in here. I'll put the episode number here if you're really interested in seeing that. I showed myself sorting. I filmed myself sorting the fleece. And then I ended up with 5 color, what am I trying to say? Collections of 5 different sets of color. So one was like, I don't even know how that one worked out, but it looks like Cadbury eggs. It was like yellow pastels, basically. There was one that was primarily green, which I just showed you here. This one, greens. There was one that was primarily reds and pinks. There was one that was blues, and then there was one that was purple. So green, I don't know about the weird pastel one. Maybe it was just like everything left over. I don't remember. So I've been working my way through those, and I finished the 3rd bag of the reds and pinks. So that is what this is right here. I love the way this came out. It is so beautiful. It really reminded me of like a sunset, like all the shades of sunset, because there's some blue in there. When I showed the wool in my last episode, so the funny thing is too, I ended up with 2 skeins. This was what, so I was like, oh my God, I'm so slow spinning this week. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, why aren't I finished with this? But it turned out it was 700 yards. So I wound off to 400 yards and then I just did the rest, and it's like 290. So it's really 300 yards of yarn from the red. And I did not remember it being that much grams wise, but it was. I think one is 92 grams and the other one's like 80 grams. So it was almost 200 grams. So I don't know what the heck I was doing spinning such a big skein. It really pushed the limits of my spinning wheel in terms of the bobbin. Like the bobbin was so packed. I'll show a picture here. I took some pictures of the bobbin when I was doing the plying. It was really, really packed. And even the littler bobbins where I put the singles on, those were very full. And I try not to spin big amounts like that just because it's more, you need more stamina, I guess, because you're not getting to the point of completion for such a much longer time. So, and that's what happened to me, only it was unbeknownst to me. Like, I did not recall that it had been that many grams. I had thought it was around 120, but it was actually much more. It was more like 160, 150, I think it was like 155 grams or so. But yeah, anyway, I got some beautiful, beautiful yarn out of it. They're really pretty. They remind me a bit of this one. So this is yarn that I bought from
Spin City UK, or Fibre that I bought from Spin City UK, and I actually knit most of this into a sweater, into my Kochi by Erie, which the Nell is also by Erie. I probably wrote that on screen. But yeah, these kind of go together. Who knows? They might be something at some point together. So yeah, so the 3 skeins. Oh, I'll show you the Le Petite Potion. I want to say her name is Steffi. I don't remember her name. I'm sorry if you're watching. I don't recall. But anyway, last year, her advent calendar was based on mythical creatures. So I'll show you the mythical creatures real fast. One of them's Rudolph. In this batch, of course, because it's red. But it was pretty much, so there's a Rudolph and a Minotaur, and then this is a Griffin and a Phoenix. That one was fun. It had a lot of yellow in it. And this is I think this is a Pokemon, Goopix. So, yeah, and they were all different wool. They were Massam, Corriedale, Falkland, Shetland, Cheviot, BFL, Merino, Polworth. There was some silk in there and some Firestar, not much though. And yeah, they were fun. It was fun. It was fun to see. Like I definitely don't ever need to spin Massam again. That was not fun. To spin. But I think in the soak, I think that particular one really, I think if you're seeing any sort of halo on there, like I think you can see it a little bit on the yarn, that is from the Massam, I think. There might be some, I think the Shetland also tends to do that as well. So yeah, so this is my spin. And I thought you might enjoy, because we probably don't remember, seeing some of the other ones that I completed, even though I had talked about them and showed them on previous episodes. That's the blue. That's the blue. And then the pastel one that I called Cadbury Eggs is here. So it was like yellow and lavender and mint green. So yeah, so there's like something happening here, right? Something. This blue is really fat. I don't remember how many yards it is. I want to say this was probably 125 grams too. The green I'm spinning is less than 100, so that'll be a fast skein. And then the bag of purple, I haven't weighed it yet. So that'll be the last one, and then I'll be done with the advent calendar spin. So I'll probably have those two, the green and the purple, next time, unless I get sidetracked by or I do something impulsive and spin something different. So the last things I have to show you are just about stash acquisitions. I got another Stitch Together Studio Wheel of the Year box. So it comes in a little black box, which I opened and I wanted to show you. This one is for Beltane, so they almost always come with a little, few things to do to celebrate Beltane. So Beltane started on April 31st. This was a good one, I think. They're always fun to look at and stuff, but this one seemed to really come with lots of stuff. So there was this bag, this really cool little project bag. Oh my gosh, I can smell this stuff. Oh, and this really adorable jar with like star glitter in it, and this instructions that it's a wishing jar. Apparently putting your wishes out into the universe is something that you do at Beltane. Of course, there was a sticker, a Stitch Together Studio, and then I can't wait to use this. I kept everything together so I could show you. This is a sugar scrub
for your body. And I have such dry skin right now, like the transitional time periods, like I just need to get to the point where I am moisturizing every day. And then a candle, there's almost always a candle, which I really look forward to. This one's called Beltane. And I think it has a rose base because she talked about roses. She always puts like these little things inside, like crystals and flower petals and stuff like that. Yeah, and then there was a really cute stitch marker that's just this tiny little star. And some other like cool stones so you can make your own altar. And then these really, really cute handmade paper stars. They're just so cute. I got a bunch of those, like 3 of those. So I'm all set. Like I need to do my Beltane altar and then an incense too, which I will also use. And then of course, she sends a card. And she wrote, "Can't wait to see how it spins up." I've been spinning a lot of her yarn lately. Yeah, so that was my stitch together box. And then of course there was Fibre. So if you're not familiar with Stitch Together, what am I trying to say? It's like 8 times a year. So it's not exactly monthly, but it's 8 times a year. And it comes like so it's basically like every 6 weeks or so you get something. So the Fibre I got this time around, I'm so happy is not a blend. It's merino. It's almost all merino with a little bit of Angelina in it. And again, I bought a sweaters quantity. So I bought 3 bags. The subscription box comes with 1 bag that's 3 ounces. Yeah, so I ended up with 9 ounces. So this time around it's bats that are, because also the prep is different each time. So the last one was batlings, so they were all little balls. So this is a bat that was done in a, oh crap, I opened one of them and this was not the one that I opened. So it's done, if I could unroll it easy. Wait, hang on. You know what? I'll just cut it. So I'll show you. This is kind of trying to be spun into a self-striping, but I think I'm going to barber pole it. I don't think I'm going to self-stripe it. Because you could, I don't know, I have to look at, there's like 20 different ways to spin to get the yarn you want. Okay, so there you go. Now you can see. So it's like purple and pink on one side, and then it goes to orange, and then to like a pond scum green, and then a dark green. But it would make a really cool self-striping yarn. But I thought about it, and I thought, you know, I think I want to do a barber pole instead. So I just have to think about how I want to do a barber pole, like how, because there's different ways you can blend. Like I could do really long sections, or I could do shorter sections so that you get shorter lengths. I think I'm more leaning towards the shorter sections because the long section will almost, actually it'll almost self-stripe because you'd get some sort of striping going on as you knit. So anyway, I've got to think about it. So I will think about that, about what it is I'm going to end up doing with that. And my last stash acquisition is more Fibre. I went to Maryland Sheep and Wool this year. Who knew? I didn't think I was ever going to go. It's actually not that far from me, and I had thought that I might go. But I thought I would wait for a year when I felt like exploring and learning about new vendors and stuff when my stash is down a bit. But no, so everything was online, so we were all able to go if we wanted. So I only went to 2 booths, and one of the shipments arrived this week, and it's from Loop Fiber Studio. I bought one of her bullseye bumps. So this is a center pull spin, so you pull from here. So this again it begs to be self-striped, but I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do with it. Yeah, I have to think about it. I have not spun one of her bumps. I have a couple in my stash, but I haven't spun them. This one, again, this is Merino and Angelina, so wow. I was actually thinking that when I'm done with the Fibre Advent spin, I think I'm going to spin one of these bumps. Like, maybe not this one. I have two others that are a little more monotone, so I could kind of get a feel for how the bump spins before I go into one that's more colorful. I really wanted a rainbow one, but I didn't get there fast enough. They sold out before I got there. But someday I'll get one of her rainbow ones. She does ones that are in like a perfect Roy G. Biv rainbow. And she talked about, when I saw them at Rhinebeck, and I didn't buy them, and then I had regrets. When I saw them at Rhinebeck, the rainbow ones, one of her store clerks was telling me that, I was saying, how do you spin this? How do you spin this? And then I thought about it after I got home, and I was like, I know how to spin that. The person in the booth had said, spin it with with some sort of neutral, like black or cream or gray, and you get that rainbow all the way through. Like, so, but you're still getting like, it's striping in a way. Like you can just spin straight out of the bump in one long stretch, and then put it together with white or something, or cream or black. But I realized that the way to do it would be I think what I was thinking was spin it one way and then turn around and go back the other way when you're applying it. So you would wind off half of the skein, half of the bobbin, like just use a ball winder, and then ply it that way. So you'd be doing like taking the full color thing and flipping it and putting it together, which I thought would look really cool. That might be what I do with that. Maybe I'll try it with that and see how I like it. Though those colors are kind of clashy. Like they clash with each other, like they're not as like smooth as like a Roy G. Biv rainbow thing would be. So I'd have to think about like which colors would match up with which. Actually, you know what? I think it would work now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, I think it would work. It would be interesting. The whole bump is only 4.6 ounces. The color name is Enlightenment, which I loved. So yeah, it's not a sweater's quantity. Instead, it would be something that would be good for like color work yoke or something. Like it would be sort of like these Spincycle yarns that change colors as you knit through them, which would be fun and interesting. As long as I'm getting high contrast, or, well, even if I'm not, it would still be fun and interesting. And anyway, that is my show for today. I thank you so much for watching today and for joining me for a little sit and knit and sip. Perhaps you sip tea or whatever you had, maybe a little wine, maybe a little whiskey. And I look forward to sharing more with you in a couple weeks. I hope you are staying safe and your family is healthy and well, and that you are weathering this pandemic situation as best as you can. And yeah, stay safe, everyone, and happy knitting and happy spinning. Bye.